you know, let's get up there. So we got up there and they gave me the shots. I was like, oh God, yeah, that's good. And then she pulled it out and x-rayed everything. And then they flipped it up, sewed it, stitched it, gave me pills, and they're like, all right, you need to get into a hand specialist. And I'm like, okay. And the closest one they could get me in was Tuesday the following week, and that was on like a Thursday or Friday. And they gave me enough for one pill every 4 hours.
Not enough. No.
And then she goes, just stay up on them. And I was like, every 4 hours, take one. Like,
Okay.
so I take one. Yeah, I take one. At that 4 hours, and I'm like, and my thumb was like, ba-bonk, ba-bonk, ba-bonk.
Yeah.
That was.
And I'm like, oh. So I took another one because I don't eat pills. I'm not a pill guy. And I'm like, I didn't know how many to take, you know. So
Do
then,
these two not look like each other?
then I finally took another one,
My beard's
and then
not
it
full.
put me to bed. Finally, I passed out. And then I woke up 3-4 hours later, and then I took two, you know. And then Saturday or Sunday, Monday, come. I was like, I'm gonna run out of pills. I was like, I had 4 left or something, and I called my buddy. I said, hey man, and he's got back problems real bad, old guy. And he's like, I called him. I said,
Who was
man,
that in?
I'll buy some pills, huh?
Who was that?
Mr. Gary Johnson. And I called Gary. I was like, man, I'll pay for him, whatever I need to do. And he's like, no. He goes, just come over and I'll give them to you. And he said, just replace them. You know, I'm not going to sell you pills. Just replace what you take. So he gave me a whole bottle, you know, and I think I took 2 out of his bottle. And then when I got to the hand specialist, he gave me another prescription and I put them in. Hell, I still got them 2 years later. I still got extra pills left over. I don't need them.
Yeah, I don't take pills unless I have to.
Yeah, so they gave me the shot, pulled the thing over, sewed it up, and then I was like, I'm starving. She's like, yeah, and I was like, she goes, what do you want? And I was like, let's go to Roxanne's. I want a chicken fried steak, mashed potatoes, and green beans. Yeah, so we went over and ate, and the gals at Roxanne's, I go in there all the time, breakfast and lunch, or breakfast and lunch, and they're like, what? What you did? I mouth down my meal, and I'm like, all right, and then Stacy's like, what do you want to do? I was like, well, let's go get the truck. It was still at the shop. So I get back over there, and my buddy's still over there working. And I walk in the door, and he goes, dude, I can't find it. I looked everywhere. He goes, I went through that whole pile. There's a pile of sawdust, because we've been cutting for 3-4 days doing the kitchen. So there was a pile of sawdust underneath the thing. Because I was on my hands and knees and went spread it all out and was feeling around. He said I flipped the saw upside down thinking, well, maybe it's stuck to something under there. And I'm like, that's the damnedest thing.
You never found it? I thought you did.
Yeah, and then I just turned around. I'm like, all right, well, I'm going to go home. He's like, well, I'm going to finish up. And I'm like, I appreciate it. And I was standing there. I was like, where the hell would that thing have went? You know, and I was looking at the saw and like, well, if it flips off there and it flew over here, I'm like, would have landed in this area if it flew.
Right.
And then I, like, and
There it is.
It had English on it. When it come off, it had to have been spinning, and it hit the ground and rolled behind the wheels of the lift.
Really?
It was behind the wheel of the man lift. And there wasn't any blood, like where it would have, like a truck fender, you know, where it would have flipped off and hit and then fell down. You would have seen, I guess it hit the nail first. But it was behind the wheel of the man lift. I was like, it's the weirdest thing. So it had to come off and hit the ground and go behind the wheel. And I'm like, oh, there it is. I pulled it out, and then we sat and bullshitted for a while. And I was like, yeah, and I had it sitting on a paper towel. And I was like, yeah, this and that. And we talked for a little bit. And I was like, all right, I'm boogieing. So I went to get, and I turned around. I was like, feels like I'm forgetting something. And he's like, your thumb. And I was like, just laughed. And then I went and got in the truck and left. And then I realized I forgot my thumb. I was like, I called him. I was like, hey, can you throw that thing in the refrigerator so it doesn't sit out there and rot? He's like, oh yeah. So he put it in the refrigerator. And then we,
Put it on
the next
formaldehyde.
day, that's when Jimmy got me the formaldehyde, and I put it in there. So we had, oh, we still got it, yeah. It's at the house.
It's not looking so good
It's
now.
in bad shape right now. It needs to go. I think it needs to be buried
Well, I
now.
mean, I think Tracy.
We can have a funeral now.
Huh?
We can have a funeral now.
Yeah, it's done.
She asked me if I wanted to see it last time or something.
For a long, I mean, what, 2 years now? I think I cut it off 2 years. Well, we moved in 2 years ago, so it'd be 3 years. Is probably when I did it, and it looked great all the way up until like last year. I don't know
I say you were having issues with it last year when I was working with you.
if air got in there or something or what.
Truck sounds better than that.
Well, let's not have any more appendages torn off.
Sound like
Huh?
I said, let's not take off any more appendages.
We're done with that.
What do you think, Claire? Do you agree? No more.
You guys boogieing? You guys boogieing? I seen you. Yeah. Yeah, he was.